Here's JT looking, burst, JT, first down, Jonathan Taylor rolling, touchdown, Wisconsin 72 yards.
Oh, what a performance by Wisconsin this past weekend, absolutely blitzing Michigan. Joined now by Urban Meyer, our weekly visit from Columbus. And Coach, I want to consider both sides of that game from a coach's point of view. Let's start with Wisconsin. Again, they're fabulous. You know, this week involved them getting a lot of pats on the back and being told how well they played. As a coach in that situation, how do you get a team refocused now for the next game, which in this case is against Northwestern?
Well, you have to, in my mind, you have to, I shouldn't say beat them down, but you got to practice very hard and get them back on track, because you're right, that college football nowadays, especially with a big win like that, they're going to be told how great they are. And, you know, we ran into a couple of situations like that where you play some big-time games on the road and you come from behind or something. So you just got to, in my mind, coach them very hard, get them back on track, make Tuesday's practice very difficult so they're all locked in, and get ready for the next game.
Yeah, Coach, I've been in some of those situations when I played in the National Football League as far as being able to run and control games and really be able to dominate your opponent. And one of the things, as you just mentioned, the coaches really got on us that following week to really pay attention to detail. It wasn't so much the physical aspect of it, but you have to be locked in mentally, because as you just mentioned, when you have people telling you just how great you are, you're obviously human nature, and now you're talking about college kids. That's something that you're going to buy into as a player.
Yeah, I would think so. The invented the game syndrome, as our friend Coach DiNardo likes to refer to it. What about the flip side of that game, Coach? What about Michigan's point of view? So much buildup heading into that one, got thoroughly dominated. How do they recover here heading forward?
Obviously, I've been thinking a lot because I'm getting asked that question. I saw what you saw. We've been there. You know, you go look back at, we lost to Virginia Tech early in the year, several years ago, and then one time we lost to Oklahoma. And the Virginia Tech, we had a freshman quarterback. I thought we'd play hard. I put it more on our coaches. We didn't play well that day, but you had to get them back. And then Oklahoma was the most disturbing one of several years ago. And because I felt, you know, you lose a game, that's one thing, but you fail to compete at the expectation level of Ohio State or of our program. And that, you know, I came unglued a little bit. You know, I was very hard on the coaches, very hard on the players. We went, watched the film, and I made each coach responsible for the unit tell me if they thought that they were, and that's where we started that whole elite competitor, where a one's a non-competitor, a two's just guy that shows up, a three's average, four competes when he wants to, and five's elite. I made every player on our team grade themselves, made every coach grade himself. I graded myself. I met with everybody on the team, and that was all on a Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday, because I saw something was wrong, and we had to get it fixed.
Coach, that's really fascinating. How long did it take for that to be able to see results as far as on the field with them using that grading system in practice and throughout the games as well?
It's instantaneous. If you look back, there's even guys are writing, to this day, be a 5 is a big saying around Ohio State, where guys are writing on the wristbands, or coaches, you know, I put so much pressure on each unit, for example, the running backs, the quarterbacks, the offensive line, and the expectation level. If you make a mistake, that's one thing. That you know, mistakes are fixable. Lack of effort, lack of toughness, lack of energy, you got a problem. And I felt like we didn't compete at the level that we had to, and it was we fixed it real fast, and went on to win a bunch of games, and I heard the players talk about it. I held the coaches accountable for it. But that's what I saw. When you lose a game and you play your hardest, you compete your hardest, that's part of, you know, unfortunate part of competing. The other part is when, and I'm not in that locker room, so I don't know exactly, but we didn't expect that game the way it turned out. And if there's a lack of competition, lack of toughness, those are things that have to be addressed, and addressed now.
How did you know that would resonate with your team?
Oh, it was a little risky. You know, I loved our play. And one thing, we have really, really good guys here, and they listen to you. And I remember that like it was yesterday, that I went after them really hard. I went after the coaches very hard. But you know, the thing is, when they watched it as a group, you didn't have to be very hard. They were so disappointed themselves. And we pride ourselves, you know, the great teams that pride themselves on playing hard and playing tough, not worrying about mistakes. And that shows up on film now big time. When you lose your energy and lose that edge and competitiveness, that's you better fix it fast.
I know, Coach, we talk about toughness and being physical at the point of attack and being able to own the line of scrimmage when you're playing against the run and also trying to obviously run the ball yourself. But when you get to the end of the game or after the game and the result is kind of what we saw with the Badgers over the Wolverines, as you like to call them, how do you identify you're not being tough? How does that, because it's easy to say, hey, they're not being physical. How does that show up? Or how do you explain that to, let's say, the average fan, what that looks like?
Well, the toughness to me is the fight. And the one thing that everybody's got to remember is everybody panics. One thing, and for the Wolverines, there's a lot of football left, man. This season's not over. They got to get going, and they certainly have the players to do it. So the issue is not players. The issue is not coaches. The issues are whatever they are. And once again, there's only a group of people that know, and that's them. However, toughness is the fight. How hard are you swinging? How are you hustling on and off the field? Are you energized to go play the next down? Those are all things that are toughness. Are you fighting through the little injuries that take place during football? When you get beat, do not accept it and go as hard as you can so you don't get beat the next play. Those are all things you look for, and that's very obvious on film. If you get beat, that's one thing. Don't get beat twice in a row.
Ohio State heading to Lincoln this week. It's going to be a supercharged atmosphere, obviously. How do you prepare a team for something like that, particularly if they haven't played in a game like that yet this season?
Yeah, we were there a couple years ago. That's a great environment. The history in that stadium with Coach Osborne and the great players and the national championships. I remember when I first got there, I don't usually do this, but I went and walked around a little bit, and I just have such admiration for that place. And we beat them pretty good, but this is a little different Nebraska team. They're kind of getting in their flow a little bit on offense. Defense, they're not where we thought they would be right now, but the one thing about, I want to say it's been 20, whatever, so many hundred sellouts in a row, and those are as good of fans as are in America. And Ryan Day and I actually, we had a little chat about that, what it's going to be like. He was actually with us when we went out there, but that's going to be one of the top atmospheres in the Big Ten.
Coach, what about Penn State and Maryland? Both coming off bye weeks. You got a Friday night game. What are the particular challenges that come with a situation like that?
Oh, I think it's great for both teams, as long as it's equal. The ones that when they don't have a game or they have a game Saturday night and have to play Friday and the other team has a bye, those are all, it's equal. Maryland's the one that's just amazed me over the years, that they've had very good coaches, they've had very good talent. What they've lacked is consistency. You remember we played them last year, and it was, my gosh, that team we played, we didn't play necessarily well on defense, and it was one of those 52-51, and that was as good a talent as I've seen, that freshman running back and McFarland, and how fast they were, how talented they were on really both sides of the ball. And then all of a sudden you look up, and next week they lose to someone they're better than. And it happened again this year, that they play like a top 25 team against Syracuse, and then they come back and lose. So they need consistency. They have talent. I think they have a good coaching staff. They need to play, to hang in there with Penn State, they're going to have to play one of their best games.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an outstanding matchup. I think one of the other factors in this game is recruiting. Both of these head coaches are outstanding recruiters, really recruit the DMV hard. Is there conversations during the week, maybe earlier in the week, of how important the game is to obviously be played, but also how it leads to some of the recruiting battles that may be going on between the two universities?
Oh, that's nonstop. And those teams, along with Ohio State, are knee-deep in that Maryland or DMV area, and it's great talent. So that's kind of Mike Loxley's go-to. Penn State has always been very strong. We have Ohio State and Larry Johnson in that area. So that's nonstop. First of all, who's going to be at the game? Who are you talking to this week? Because they're going to be watching with a great anticipation. They know, guys in that area know a lot of those players on both teams. So this is a huge recruiting momentum for that area.
Urban Meyer, always great to visit with you, Coach. Thanks for your time. We'll talk to you next week.
Good to talk to you guys.